How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? I can't believe that's the nicest thing you've ever said about me. That on rare occasions I have almost some insight.
It may be that we went to watch the Meg yesterday, and the film was so bad that everything you said afterwards just seemed brilliant to me. So I,
Drew, but this is a matter, and I suppose we can get to this when we talk about the church. I think I just have lower expectations than you, because when I left the Meg, all I could think is, well, that was better than I'm Sorry to Bother You. It was at least better than that.
I think once you have seen I'm Sorry to Bother You, everything seems better. I think that may. So, and by the way, I just to put in a quick plug, because it's not time yet, we're bringing out the second season of Another Kingdom.
That's right.
In October. But it'll be out in October, and we are recording it now, and you have done almost halfway. I guess next week we'll get through the first half. And I will also say you are doing a spectacular job. Your performance is absolutely great. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It is always really nice. I don't recommend the job of being an actor, because when you're a working actor, it's very hard. But I will say, when you are working, it's great, because someone gives you the words, and you just say them.
I could see, though, that you were in your element, because you had the entire room and absolute stitches, and that was before we started shooting. So that was,
oh, thanks. Come on. I never met a camera I didn't like. Get out of here.
I didn't get a chance to get to this thing with the church, so I'm going to put it on you, because you really have been keeping up with it, and it is your church. What happened in this latest letter from the nuncio, and what is a nuncio also?
Well, nuncio is my uncle. My uncle back in the Bronx. But the nuncio is the
Uncle Nuncio, come in. Yeah.
The nuncio is the papal representative to the United States. So the nuncio that we're talking about here, Cardinal Carlo Maria Vigano, was the Vatican's representative to the United States. And let's not forget, the United States and Germany basically fund the Catholic Church. I mean, this is a very important high-level Vatican position. In the Catholic Church, there aren't many things that are unprecedented. We've had popes kidnapped by foreign armies. We've had, there have been a lot of things. This is an unprecedented event in the history of the Catholic Church. You have a top-level Vatican official accusing the Pope of covering up sex abuse, of undoing punishments that were put on an abusive cardinal by Pope Benedict, of undoing that and actually giving that cardinal a lot more power. And you have this top Vatican official, Cardinal Vigano, calling on the Pope to resign.
Wow.
This is all but earth-shattering news.
Now, the New York Times, a former newspaper, reported this today as Vigano. Is that how you pronounce it?
Vigano, yeah.
Vigano is an enemy of this wonderful liberal Pope, and these are unsubstantiated charges. Is that a fair characterization? I knew I'd get a laugh anyway.
It's as fair as anything else in the New York Times. Okay. How's that damning with faint praise? That's absurd. Certainly, one could say that Vigano is more conservative, or has been a critic of aspects of Francis's papacy. But then, who among us hasn't been a critic of Francis's papacy? Pope Francis has bred a lot of confusion in the Church. He seems to contradict millennia of doctrine, and he's also been very dismissive, not only to his critics, but to young Catholics who desire orthodoxy and liturgical seriousness. He's dismissed young Catholics who prefer older forms of liturgy as too rigid, and he's suggested that there's some psychological problem with these young Catholics.
And this is why conservative churches thrive and liberal churches like the Episcopal Church are vanishing off the face of the earth.
Well, that's exactly right. The Catholic Church will be the Catholic Church, or there won't be a Catholic Church.
Right.
You cannot water it down. The pew's empty. So I think that is very uncharitable of the New York Times, if not higher ups in the clergy. But also, this report has been substantiated. He's named people here. Monsignor Jean-Francois Lantume, who was counselor to the nuntiate in the United States, was asked for comment on this. His reply to the media is, Vigano said the truth, that's all. And this is an 11-page document that was not given flippantly, like some comments of the Pope, to media outlets on airplanes and in coffee shops. This was well thought out. This was well planned, and there's nothing to be gained here. Some people, like the Times, want to say that this is a power play for this cardinal. The cardinal's retired. Cardinal Vigano is retired. He has nothing personally to gain from this, but I think he's unburdening his conscience here, because
I've been getting some flack through emails telling me that I sound anti-Catholic, and I think that I am pro-Catholic. In fact, that I think the Catholic Church is an enormously important priesthood.
I think you're one Benedict away from being Catholic.
One Benedict. No, if they had two incredible home runs, and then they swung and missed.
They can't win them all,
Yeah, I know. But I think the thing is, I do believe that. As Western civilization is teetering on the brink, I do believe that priesthoods are immensely important to restore our faith and to bring people back to God. And I'm not against the Catholicism. I am appalled. Like, for instance, the Pope responded to this on the plane, coming back from Ireland. Ireland, which in my lifetime was one of the most Catholic countries on earth, but which just voted to legalize abortion, with people flying home from across the world, coming back because they hate the church so much. They're so ticked off at these abuses in the church that took place, some of which took place in Ireland. The Pope responded to this letter by saying, basically, I have no comment. I mean, is that fair? I mean, is that a fair? I just find that appalling.
That's exactly what he said. It was actually even more on point than that. He said, I will not say one word about this. I think the statement speaks for itself, and you have sufficient journalistic capacity to reach your own conclusion. And it's amazing how when the Pope wants to apparently, we don't know because we're not in the conversations with journalists, but when it's being reported that the Pope is speaking freely, questioning millennia of church doctrine, he's perfectly willing to speak. He's loquacious, he's verbose, but when it comes to direct charges, he will not respond. And this goes back further than just Vigano's letter. 4 prominent cardinals in the church sent dubia to the Pope, 5 dubia, 5 questions, including 2 of those cardinals are now dead, but including Cardinal Burke, who is considered a conservative cardinal, very serious, high-ranking official in the church, and 5 questions about what the Pope said in apostolic letters that seem to promote heresy, and he's never responded to those questions.
Wow.
He will not respond to his critics, and this is a real outrage because this Pope has called for transparency. He's always talking about transparency in the media. He's always talking about how awful clericalism is, how we need to stop all of the clericalism, and then what do we get as a response to him? He tells the bishops, he tells his critics, he tells the public to pound sand. I won't answer these doubts. This is really horrifying behavior.
So the guy is calling for his resignation, and he's not alone, right? There are other people calling for the Pope's resignation, but I cannot imagine this Pope resigning, so I don't think that's going to happen. What do you think will happen?
Well, far be it from me to tell the Holy Father what to do,
Yeah.
But he has said before, he actually said back in May that he believes that bishops should know when it's time to leave, including the Pope. They should know when it's time to leave and retire. This fueled, in the conspiracy theory realm, this fueled speculation that Pope Benedict was pushed out, although nobody has any hard evidence of that. But this is another example of perhaps the Holy Father might take his own advice. He wants transparency, he wants an end to clericalism, and he thinks that bishops, including the Bishop of Rome, should retire and not die in office. Perhaps if these allegations are true, if the nuncio's statement is true, then perhaps the Pope might take his own advice.
Wow. All right. So speaking of institutions that have been infiltrated by people we disapprove of, let's talk for a minute about college campuses, because over the last weeks, there have been just a few weeks, there have been these incredible number of stories of this, not only attempts to infiltrate the colleges, but just the fact that they've already been infiltrated coming to light. I mean, I saw this article about socialists saying we've got to move into the schools. Really?
I couldn't believe it. This is great because this is from the Young Democratic Socialists of America.
Okay.
I didn't know there were old Democratic Socialists. I thought Ocasio-Cortez was the oldest one, her and Grandpa Bernie. But the Democratic Socialists of America, they've now said we need to move into the schools, and this is unsurprising because socialists don't know anything about history, so they don't know. They already did it 50 years ago.
I was going to say they're going to displace the socialists in the school and move in socialists instead.
You can tell the old socialists of America clearly succeeded because the young socialists don't know about their own history. But it's pretty interesting what they said. They said we've got to move in here because because education is a strategic sector. This goes without saying. They point out that education is well paid. Now, often we hear about teachers not being paid very much. It is worth pointing out, in places like West Virginia, which has some of the lowest teacher pay in the country, teachers are often among the most well-paid members of their community, which was pointed out by the Democratic Socialists. They also say that teachers have virtually ironclad job security.
True.
So if they have all of this job security, this is why the socialists are opposing charter schools. They're supporting teacher unions. They're attacking any chance that a young person might have to get an education or to have upward mobility. They're trying to cut off early on. And it makes sense because they can't win in the court of public opinion.
This is the thing. I mean, it seems to me an immediate giveaway if you say, this is my opinion and all other opinions either must be silenced, a la Facebook and Twitter, or you say any other opinion is hateful or literally Hitler. You don't have an argument. If you can't sit down and argue, you don't have an, and I was talking about this earlier, the real problem is not that they don't have an argument, but if they make their argument, everyone will be horrified because their real argument is to destroy American freedom. And that's what the argument they don't want to make. So they have to silence you before you challenge them.
That's exactly right. They can't, they pick on someone their own size, which is little kids. And But this goes, their campus reform is one of the great websites for this. And they did, this wasn't an academic study, but they went out with a camera and they talked to students in New York after Andrew Cuomo, the governor, said America was never great. And they asked these students, what do you think? And all the students said, yeah, America was never great. And a number of them said, well, yeah, we don't think America was ever great because we were taught in schools. We know the truth. We had a progressive education, so we know the truth. And that's, of course, the case. If you're going to replace textbooks with Howard Zinn, why would you think that America is great? I almost don't blame this generation for their socialism and for their anti-Americanism. They're just so ignorant.
It's interesting that state-funded schools are teaching them we need a bigger state. And it never occurs to them to question that. It's like as if like schools, funded by AT&T were saying, how we save this is let AT&T take over the world. Yeah. And they were going, yes, now I know the truth. It's that AT&T must rule the world. I mean, but it's just,
there's an amazing study.
They're not considering their sources here.
And there's an amazing study that was just out today. I think it was from the University of San Diego, that a third of American teenagers have not read a book in the past year.
Wow.
Now, one has to wonder about this. Well, statistically, all American teenagers are supposed to be in school, virtually all of them, and they haven't read a book in the past year. Perhaps there's not only wrong with the culture and the generation, perhaps there's something wrong with the education. Yeah,
it does look that way. All right, listen, I got to go, but tell me what's going to be on your show today.
So we're going to go into, there's a lot more to be said about this Catholic scandal.
Yeah.
We're going to be going very in-depth on it and asking what did the Pope know and when did he know it. Then we'll also be talking about corruption at the federal level in American politics. We're going to have Eric Eggers on to talk about his new book on how the left steals elections and how they're going to steal the next one.
Oh, cool. I will therefore forward all your anti-Catholic letters to you from now on.
Very good. I'll absolve you in my role as lay Catholic talk show host.
All right. Thanks a lot, Knowles. I appreciate it.
See you, Drew.
Unbelievable. I always compare, I've talked about this before, but you've seen Men in Black where the alien comes and devours the guy and puts on his skin and kind of walks around shambling around. You can tell there's an alien inside the guy's skin, but he still looks like a human being. That is what the left does to every institution, whether it's the New York Times, which really used to be a newspaper, used to be a good, a little left of center, but still a good, solid newspaper. It's now just a shambling ruin of an institution. Yale University, so many universities that used to be respectable are now teaching children ignorance. Come in and we will make you ignorant. And, I hope they save the Catholic Church because I think we need it desperately. But right this minute, it is not looking as good as it should.